So what are the capabilities of the application after being deployed? So in this case, we will give you the example of our internal application. It's the same application as what you've seen during our composition demo. The application itself is a web application. You can access it through the browser, and it's a multi-language, multi-region application based on the components. So the components themselves, they determine in which languages your application is available. And after you logged in, you have a personalized home screen. So every user can pick its own preferences from the composition to list on the home screen. So if I access the All Apps menu, then you have access to all the components that are part of my composition and where I have the rights for. So if I have a rights profile that only allows me for particular components or particular functionality, I will only be able to access those functionalities. But if I would do a lot of website maintenance, I can simply pin the shortcut to that functionality on my home screen, and I can define myself how to arrange it. After clicking a particular functionality, let's say the sales invoices, in this case we get a list view. And every user can personalize these list views also for his or her preferences. And that means that you can change the columns. And since the application is an integrated solution, you will have access to all data that is part of your business model. So for example, I have access to my customer data and say, for example, I want to see from the invoice address, the zip code as a column in my view. And when I do so, I can search that column as well. So I can simply say, well, I want to have all invoices where the invoice address starts with a 7 and where the invoice amount is more than 1,000 euros. And by selecting these criteria, I can make my preferred lists and I have control over my views. Even within that data, so when I select a record, I can personalize these views as well. So if I want to see the expected payments and I say, well, I use this overview a lot, I can simply add it to my home screen. I can personalize it by moving it up or say, well, I don't want to see this one. And by giving the end user the capabilities to personalize it in this way, each user can make it as personalized as needed to run his or her tasks. Then we got a lot of questions about the different UI capabilities. And beside these, let's say, grid and form capabilities, actually any type of UI is possible. So for example, what you see over here is a planning view, which gives you a very dynamic overview of a roadmap where you can have drag and drop sidebars as a total different way of displaying information. Same counts, for example, for a knowledge base where you will see a tree view on the side where you can search and where you have all types of documentation being displayed in another layout. And on the same way, we use it for POS systems, web editors, or whatever. Another part is about importing and exporting data. So after you deploy the application, in many cases, you want to retrieve information from other systems or from other data sources. So within the application, you can add an import component to the application. And after doing so, you can build all kinds of import definitions where you can simply say, I want to import a particular data set. I can define a particular source. So I can import from CSV, but also from ODBC or XML. And given the fact that it's an XML, you can define your fields and your import definitions. So any part of data can be imported and exported. You can also integrate these capabilities into a workflow engine. So after adding a workflow engine to your composition, you have the capability of creating workflows within the configuration. So I will just simply show you an example of a workflow that's been defined in the application and that will be used for any leave request within our organization. So these are the tasks that will be executed when a leave request is done, when it's been approved or denied, and how it's handled through the process. So this will give you ultimate flexibility of configuring workflows within the application. Another type of functionality is data visualization. So there are different ways of creating components for example, dashboarding, visualizing data in different ways, but also capabilities of using reports based on Excel templates. Another way is to integrate a BI environment as a third-party product.